Flu season came early this year, and it seems to have passed early as well, at least for those of us on the fold, and we swear we're getting our flu shots next year, Mom. But some scientists at the National Institute for Health are working to make the yearly flu shot a thing of the past. They are leading research into a universal flu vaccine. Here's a look at how and why.
Well, influenza is a much misunderstood disease. Among many people, there's this perception, which is a misperception, that it is not a serious disease. Every year we've gone through the process of predicting what the seasonal flu would be, making a vaccine and administering it. It was relative complacency is that this works, why necessarily put a major investment to do even better, which is a big mistake. Every once in a while, you have what's called a pandemic, which can be devastating at a population level. Historically, the worst that we have on record is the 1918 pandemic, which killed between 50 and 100 million people. One of the problems with influenza as a disease is that the protection that you got from prior infection or from vaccination is not optimal each year as the virus changes. So it was only a few years ago when investigators, in trying to molecularly manipulate the virus, were they able to show that people actually make antibody against a component of the virus that doesn't really change from year to year.
Most individuals have B cells like this. What we want to do with a vaccine is actually expand the B cells so that you have a lot of those B cells around. Then no matter what influenza virus you are attacked with in the future, you will have those B cells and those antibodies that will fight that influenza strain.
Well, there have been several obstacles. One is a complacency that we already have a vaccine that's reasonably good. That's the first thing. The other thing was the scientific realization of whether this was possible or not.
We start with blood. Most of the cells in the blood are red cells. We only want the white cells. Within the white cells, and we want the lymphocytes. Within the lymphocytes,
research is mostly failure and not very many successes, but you build on knowledge so you get to occasionally a breakthrough and mostly incremental knowledge.
Not just any part of influenza, the hemagglutinin, and not any part of the hemagglutinin, just the stem.
One of the reasons why it's important to develop a universal flu vaccine is that with influenza, it's constantly a catch-up game. You have to identify what you predict will be the strain for that season. Then you've got to go through a manufacturing process that if you get one glitch in it and you lose time, you're in really serious trouble because you might miss the cycle of vaccination. Assuming that everything goes well and you get the vaccine in time, then you got to convince people to get vaccinated.
So how far are we away?
You can never predict, but I would say if you had asked me that question 10 years ago, I would have said, I can't even predict if, much less when, we're going to have an influenza vaccine that's a universal influenza vaccine. I'm cautiously optimistic that we're going to have it. From what's going on scientifically now, I would say 10 years would be a time that we would hope we'd have it, and if we're lucky, maybe even a bit earlier. But I think a 10-year time frame is not an unrealistic time frame.